Hello and welcome to GrassChat. I am Russ, of course, and this is GrassChat's actual GrassChat. It's the first one for about 4 months that we've done of these, and this is where myself and a select guest, we sit down and we talk a few things autograss, primarily about their autograss lives and what their experience has been over the years. I am absolutely delighted to say that my guest tonight is a member of a legendary autograss dynasty, the first ever third generation national champion as well. And we're going to learn a whole lot more about it. It is a warm welcome, Michaela Dance. Hello, how are you and how are you going through these very, very difficult times that we're all enduring at the moment?
Oh, hi Russ, I'm very good, thank you. Hope you're all well up north there. But yeah, it's such a strange time. It's just, I don't think we'll ever get used to this at all, and hopefully we won't have to, and we'll soon all be vaccinated and be able to get closer again and get back to our grassing ways and get back to what we love and enjoy. It's just pants at the moment, the way it is, that we can't do what we want. So yeah, not good.
Yeah, it's one way of it. How have you managed to cope yourself? Obviously, with you being in Wales and things have been progressing very differently to how they have been over here. I mean, obviously, as of midnight just gone, you've been put under a full lockdown. I mean, how do you actually manage to focus on how you're going to go through one day when you don't know what the next is going to bring? Are you managing to look after yourselves? Obviously, as a family now, your own family, you've got your own personal care to deal with, looking after the little one and Matt, of course. But you're managing to get through okay?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Living with the old click and collects from the supermarkets, that's an absolute godsend. Like, you know, you have those moments where 1 minute you're full of worry because you think you're too scared to open the front door in case the virus gets you. And then on the other hand, you're like thinking, oh, do you know what? I can't carry on just cocooning myself in a house forever and a day, as it seems, because at one point Wales seemed to be, our First Minister was keeping us under lock and key so much more than the rest of the UK, it appeared, and I think a lot of frustration was coming through, and you know, it was hard. And I had not long had a newborn baby just before we had Maxon on the 22nd of November, and of course by the March was lockdown. So by the time I got used to motherhood and starting to get a bit of a routine together and wanting to get out and about, bang, this hit us. And it's sort of like, oh, all of these big plans. I had plans to go up to Yorkshire to spend time with Emily and Ben and Wiggy and Hilary and Jeffo and everybody up there. I was going to go visit other people. I was going to go over to Ireland. I was going to get together with loads of grassing friends and have all these things planned and arranged. And yeah, it seems like my time off has been wonderful because I've obviously had a fab time with my little boy. Well, Matthew, he had to go back to work obviously because of being self-employed, but touch wood, he's not been affected too bad because even in lockdown, he had a few jobs on that were purely in isolation, and he was the only person working on site on these jobs, and it wasn't like residential or anything. So that was in our favour. But yeah, it's not been easy, and not seeing the family is the hard one for me.
Yeah, it's the same all around, isn't it? And on an autograph side of things, we are a big family as well. We're friends, off track rivals on it, and as soon as a race is done, we're back to helping each other out and socialising. And obviously that's what autographs is. It's a year-long holiday, isn't it, which goes on for about 8 months of the year, where we do see each other every other weekend, and we socialise and basically we enjoy bringing lives together on that. So yeah, I can understand it has been very difficult, especially when, as what you've just recently gone through, where you're having to go from one day it's this, and then 24 hours later you can't do any of that, and you've got to do this, or vice versa. So we're gonna actually talk about your life in autographs, or bits of it anyway. Hopefully you can remember some of it, a lot of it fondly. But as we said at the very beginning, you are part of an autograss dynasty, legendary family going. I mean, I don't know how far it does go, but I know your grandparents were a huge early influence on the sport, especially in your parts of the world, with Gordon and Shirley, both national champions themselves. And then that's gone through to obviously your parents, Mike and Joan, obviously well known in the autographs fraternity and still is. But you was obviously not around when your grandparents was racing at the top of the sport in the 70s and that. But have you been able to watch any footage of what they used to do when they were racing, and especially obviously with your mum and dad, Mike and Joan? Have you sat down together and watched back any of that and just see how the sport was, just so you could
yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Everyone was clean off, absolutely clean off back then. There wasn't even any barriers when my nan and granddad were first racing. It was just these, and it was crazy because I remember saying to my nan, because my nan and granddad are farming, so being brought up on the farm and stuff with them as well, and then they'd go off on the weekends to do this racing. Everyone thought they were crazy because they just go flat out in the like class 4 mini estate and everything. And everyone in our village in Colchester knew when my nan and Gampy were preparing to go away racing, because they'd hear the mini engine screaming up the farm lane because he'd be trying it out and stuff. So they knew, there must be a race meeting coming up. But the marshals, that's what I remember looking back on the old footage and stuff that they got and photographs, is like, you know, when you go to like a agricultural show and the judges are in the long white coats, like seeing the marshals wearing them, I was like, that looks like they're stock judging, not marshalling a race.
Yeah. It's fascinating to watch back. As you know, we share an awful lot of old footage, and we will try and do more anyway. But yeah, I've got from my part of the world, it was always the Lincoln Showground, the fastest man in grass years and years ago, and seeing footage of that track in the 70s. The actual catch fencing was the spectators' cars, which lined around the outside there, and then there was a bit of rope. They didn't have anything else. But yeah, so when you obviously was watching that, did that captivate your interest in the sport as a youngster, or was you originally not interested in cars, or did it take any persuasion?
No, there was definitely no hesitation ever. I was always going to race regardless. I think when I was a little sparkle in my father's eye, I was going to be a racer regardless. But I genuinely think, I remember my dad saying to me, I could have been about 9 or 10, and my nan and granddad were still flat out farming at this point, before my granddad's health took a bit of a turn where he had to retire from farming. And I remember I was quite interested in horses, and obviously full on with the farm, but I also had my motorbikes on the farm and was busy with that. And always, whenever my dad had the NSU out and he wanted to take that for a spin round the field to try it out before a meeting, I'd be sat in the footwell going flat out, covered in cow muck, coming up through the grass field, everything. And it was never that I was ever scared of it. The only thing I say I was possibly scared of was, I remember going through the pits, and if there was like the big class 7s or the big specials, when they were revving up, I was a little bit dubious as a child with them. But in general, I was pretty much, I was going to do it regardless. I remember my dad, going back to the horses, saying to me, look, you've got the choice, it's either horses or horsepower. And I was like, nah, because all my family, my granddad's side of the family, they're all big into horses, and one of my cousins is a national Grand National winner, Carl Llewellyn. So horse racing is massive in our family, but then we've got our little side where we got the older horsepower aspect instead.
Yes. Well, I suppose then, it's quite a contrast really. So making that decision, but you've gone. You obviously chose the correct side, and went with horsepower. So, how do you remember your first time sitting in a car? You know, when your dad comes up to you and he says, "Right, Michaela, it's time. You can start racing next year." Do you remember learning to drive?
Yeah, I remember all that, and I remember like sort of being like a kangaroo with the clutch, like start.
We all did that.
It was just hilarious. I used to think, I'm going to jump in a car and just go. Like, I didn't think of everything, obviously, with the gears, but I remember, like, growing up as a kid, going away racing was, like, a massive thing. Well, it still is now, but, like, a massive thing where I'd always be checking off all the cars and seeing who's got what car. And I was a bit of a tomboy growing up, so I was proper in with all the mud and in the pits and stuff. But then when it come to my time, I used to love going around the pits and sitting in people's cars and like stuff like that. So I was always wanting to be in the car. So then when I was allowed to race, it was 12 years of age. They dropped it, I think, a year or so before I was allowed to race. The age dropped. 98 was it?
Yeah.
And I started in 2000 then.
Yeah, that was going to be my next bit, actually. Hopefully I was getting it right, saying that you started in 2000, a year after me.
Yeah.
So do you remember your thoughts when it got to that first race day then, and you thought, right, this is it now? You've been watching for the early years of your life. You've been trying to obviously get involved with your mum and dad, helping around and that. But now it was your turn, and it still sort of is, but it is growing actually. But I think back then there weren't many girls who were actually racing in the junior class. I can't think of too many at all. So did you feel any pressure? Did that create any extra nerves? Because obviously you were racing straight away with the boys, but obviously you was still a little girl going into this bigger world. Did you feel any extra nerves or pressure on that?
I think there was a bit between the teeth. I think I was a bit more determined to prove a point, because I always felt sort of like I remember early memories, like all the Welsh juniors when I was growing up, when I was 12, that was like the Welsh clang of juniors was like a BAS final on our doorstep, basically, or a national final. It was like really competitive. And even like when our gang of juniors, we were kind of friends beforehand, like me and Craig Campshall, my mum's got pictures of me and him in a paddling pool when we were like 2 and 3 at Map Open somewhere when it was scorching hot. And then next thing, a few years down the line, we're like banging doors against each other. Yeah. But I always remember thinking, if the boys are out there, I remember going round and perhaps following them and thinking, oh, they're going a bit quicker here. They're going faster out that corner than me. And then it would make me try and push myself more.
Yes.
Because I was determined that they weren't going to be pulling away from me. I'd set myself little goals to make sure I was on the same lap and just get my confidence up after I'd started, and it was really good.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of doing it, really. I mean, some kids, I mean, in all aspects of life, some people just jump straight in, and you think, how on earth are they doing that at that? But some people take a bit to build a bar. It took me over a year to actually get decent confidence behind the wheel. And so did you not quite? Did you feel any intimidation from the boys, or
sometimes?
Yeah,
sometimes, occasionally.
I suppose it depended on the meeting. I suppose when if you have a lot of juniors at a club meeting, you'll do your heats, and then there may be a B final where there's 1 or 2 cars. But I suppose your first step is making that full final at a club meeting, and you think, right, I'm here now, and that's your first step, and then it obviously goes to up the levels to the major meetings. But no, it's obviously good that you built that confidence and pretty quickly, really, because you were moving through the junior ranks, and at the time, I will agree, because I was racing that, I think, no disrespect to juniors of other time periods, but I think the early 2000s was some of the strongest junior racing that there was. It was where the class was at its biggest, where there was 150 plus of them going to the nationals, so that sort of showed that. But there is one incident which I wanted to bring up, which happened in your junior career. I'm not sure whenabouts it started, but you had quite a scary incident. Was it at Breeden Hill Basround? Where unfortunately your little car got rolled over, and obviously that is a scary thing in itself. Was that your first roll?
That was my first roll, yeah.
But then to obviously make things worse, the car caught fire.
Yeah.
So do you remember what your thoughts were? I mean, was you full of panic? Was you still sort of realising what had happened, and then that happened? What sort of memories do you have? Because when I had my first incident and roll, it knocked me back as a junior a little.
Yeah.
But what did that feel to you with something where so much happened in one go and not the right things?
I remember going out for that meeting because I think that was my second season in juniors after I'd started racing. Because my first full season, my dad said, you're going to do club level, you're going to get your confidence, get your skills, so I know you can control the car, blah, 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 before I take you away to big events. And then you can really, if you want to go for it, you can get into the big events. So it was the second season. I remember a track being quite rutty and quite rough, and there was quite a few because the juniors were sort of halfway through the first set of heats at this point in the format, and I always thought, oh my god, this track looks terrible, it looks rough, and I'm not one to slate any tracks, but when you're younger you don't quite get the concept of how much work and preparation goes into tracks and how hard it is to keep them going as well as they can be. And I had this funny feeling that, oh my god, what's going to happen in my race, what's going to happen, not thinking it would be me, but always on the lookout thinking what's going to happen. I remember, was it John Smith and Jack Bagley I was out against, and just coming behind them thinking I'm doing well, and the tractor tyres that were on the markers, well, my poor little Mini hit that, up I went, and I had time to think about it, thinking I'm going, and my dad always told me, and to this day he said, whatever you do not let go of that steering wheel, you just hang on and don't put your arms anywhere, just hang on. And that was before there was the rule of arm restraints and window nets and all this. So I was just 13 years of age in my Mini. I kept the steering wheel from that, and it's still in my dad's garage now because it was the old road car steering wheel in my Mini, and I buckled it because I bent it so hard from holding on. And then I remember when I seen the flames when I landed, I was like, oh my god, there's flames, there's fire. And because it was in the mesh, I just felt it was so hot. I needed to get out, and it wasn't a quick release seatbelt that I had. It was old fashioned, click together. My dad used to put me in so tight that I couldn't get out quick enough. But yeah, it was a bit scary. And I remember my mum was stood with Wayne Llewellyn's partner Sam and Shirley Grice watching that race, and Aidan Llewellyn was literally months old at that point, and my mum was holding him, and just before my race, Shirley Grice said, oh, do you want me to hold the baby while you watch Michaela race? And thank God she did, because I think she would have launched him up in the air or something. So yeah, he's got me to thank for that one, that he didn't get chucked up in the air if she kept hold of him.
Well,
but I got straight back out there. I didn't. Everybody in the pits, as soon as we come in, I don't know how many people was around the car. People I didn't even know. You know what it's like in the pits. Everyone mucks in and helps out.
Yeah, of course.
So and I was straight back out then in my second heat. I made it out, and the car was a bit worse for wear, but just got me out there again. Yeah,
brilliant. So we go from a low point of the juniors to a high point the following year, 2003, and you at the Map Open, as it is every year. It's actually also the British Junior Championships, not to be mixed up with the British Autograph Series. It's a completely separate title, and it's regarded as the second biggest junior title after the Nationals. And then there was the Fastest Junior and Grass. They were the big three junior titles. But 2003, you went out and beat the boys, and you're still the only female, I believe, to win the juniors as saloons, because obviously now specials are incorporated, but back then there was only saloons, and I believe you're the first and only female to do so. So what that must have been, did you realise it was quite an achievement then?
Yeah, I remember years before, there was always the big talk, and whenever we were at the Map track and juniors, because Map seemed to be the first big meeting of the year for us all to get together as kids, even before we were old enough to race. And there was always the talk about, when we race around it. We used to do our bike race around the track. Do you remember the bike races?
Yeah.
And it was when I'm racing around here, and it was always the big pinnacle where we always loved that. And the fact that you had to battle your way through, because it weren't special, so there was a high volume of people in the class, and to the fact that we got to the final. I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in the Map Open final in juniors, right? Whatever happens, happens. I remember my dad saying to me, don't worry about panels, if you're in a good position, hold your own, and to come across and have won that, I remember just tingling all over, thinking, oh my gosh, I've done it. And it was just, that trophy, it's the trophy that I absolutely adore, the camshaft trophy.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was so sad. I never wanted to give that back.
Was Matt in that final?
I think he was. Do you know what? I can't remember. I remember Carl Smith was. He had a black flag because he jumped the start. Tom Aldridge, I think, finished second.
We will look it up, and then obviously you can remind him of that.
I always remind him of my last year in juniors, because me and him there was 4 heats then. They dropped the semis and quarterfinals that year at Severn Valley track.
Oh, yes.
The Much Cowan track.
Yeah, 2000. That was 2003 as well.
That's it, yeah. Well, that was our last... Was that our last year? Was it? Yeah, that was our last year, because my first year into ladies, because my birthday's 2 days before the cut-off. So I'm 28th of Jan, so I didn't get the extra year choice. And I remember saying to Matthew, before we went out for our 4th heat, he'd had wins and whatever, and he was up here. And I remember us chatting, I said, look, Dance, because we were like good mates and stuff, I said, if I win this, I'm in the final. I got to have a win, because I think I was on 2 wins and a second. So if I'd had 2 wins and 2 seconds, it wasn't quite enough. I think you have to have 3 wins and a second to get in. And yeah, he went and won the heat, didn't he? And I came second. So that went down well.
Yeah. So every time now, like you can sort of just get him and say that was for 2003.
Yeah, I had that when I rolled him over at the Star Bass round.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Was that you?
That was me. I was fed up of him chopping my nose off going into the first bend, thinking I'd give way to him, and I wouldn't.
Well, there you go. I think we need to have a deciding race then, don't we, between you two?
That would be good.
We need to find a couple of Class 1 minis and get you both back out.
Yeah, that would be something, that was.
So was it, I wasn't trying to keep up with the years. I wasn't sure whether it was 2004 or 2005 you stepped up, graduated into senior racing. So was it 2004?
Yeah, 2004 it was.
So you made the traditional step, which most people did actually back then, was go straight into Class 1.
Yeah.
How did you compare? Obviously, going into ladies racing, who people obviously they could have 20 years experience, compared to obviously being in that bracket. Yes, you was against the boys, but you still all had the same experience of racing. So how did you find the competition level in ladies racing when you first stepped up?
I found a massive change. Like, whereas I was in juniors, you had to just hold your own and go all guns blazing every race because it was so highly competitive and everyone was level pegging. Whereas in the ladies, sometimes, depending on who you'd have in your heats, there was a lot more respect, a bit more ladylike, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I was, of course, brought up with the boys in racing. That wasn't me, and I was just going out there, and I was finding straight away I was holding my own in the seniors class, and I thought, oh, I'm doing all right here. But I put that pretty much just down to the good competition I had growing up in the juniors. If I didn't have good competition in the juniors, I wouldn't be half as good as I was later on, I feel.
Yeah. Was ladies racing quite strong at club level for you? Some clubs, obviously, they're really struggling to get numbers of ladies to race. But did you have plenty to just learn a little bit more from when you first moved up?
Yeah, perhaps one heat.
All right, Class 1's usually all right, isn't it? So I suppose it's not too bad than racing around on your own. Yeah,
that's it. It was more the Class 1s and 2s locally were stronger at that point, and then it was more the sort of super saloons and specials were sort of more limited on numbers in club level. But I found I learnt loads, and just even by learning your own technique in the car and everything you picked up at club level, just things to bring with you to the bigger events as well. Yeah. That also helped, more time in the car and things.
Yeah, of course. The problem is it's difficult to learn at a BAS level when you're only in the car for about 3 minutes. It's difficult to try and take any thoughts back saying like, well, the car didn't turn into that corner quite as well, why did that happen? But it's you've got such a long time between to think about it, and then not a lot of time to actually put it into practice. So
yeah, exactly.
So, but very quickly though, well, I think it was the following year. Well, it must have been at least anyway, 2005, because you ended up racing in 2 classes. You made a move into Class 6 as well. I think your dad had got a Class 6. Did he get it for that year, or did he get it the year before? But you soon ended up getting behind the wheel of it. How was that as a comparison? Because obviously you've gone from a very humble little car to something which is the most powerful class as a front wheel drive in the sport. So what did you think when you first got into the Class 6?
I remember looking at the Class 6 thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to have a go at this. And oh my God, I got in it and I put my foot down. I frightened myself because I wasn't used to the speed. And I thought, wow, that's something else then. That was, and there was no power steering in our Class 6. So my arms, oh my gosh, they were, every time I come out of it, my arms were literally shaking. I was just like jelly because of hanging on so much. But yeah, absolutely loved it. And once I got to learn the car and know it all, it was, I just absolutely loved thrashing that Class 6 around the track. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I love sharing the car with my dad as well, because my mum was racing it beforehand. And then, yeah, I sort of perhaps pushed her out the seat.
It must have obviously been a bit more difficult though to learn, because as you say, Class 1 and 2 back then was fairly strong, but the other classes weren't so much. So you couldn't really learn a great deal about competition. You could learn the car, which was great. You had less people around you, so you could learn what the car does, but you couldn't learn what the competition was like, apart from at the major events. But it's fair to say that you obviously didn't do too badly with it. Because you went and won the Nationals in 2005, and that was obviously that was
St.
Neots. First Nationals win.
That was my first Nationals win. Yeah.
So bearing in mind, you probably wasn't expecting in Class 6, because you'd obviously had more time in the Mini, and a second season in Class 1, you was probably maybe aiming higher in that at first, was you? And the Class 6 was sort of still maybe less serious at the time, but must have been a great feeling to obviously achieve a goal like that.
100%. Like 2004, I remember being at the Stroud Nationals in 2004, and I think because we had semi-finals that year in 2004, I was one of the top qualifiers. So I was on game for being, if it wasn't for semis, I would have been straight into the final. But then in the final, I ended up getting a black flag for, I think it was crossover, me and Claire in she was racing Wayne Price's Class 1. We had to come in together, and I unfortunately had the black, and that's where my Nationals finished then in my first year of ladies. And then, so 2005, I was determined for that Class 1, because the Class 1 was where my heart was at, because that's what I've known was just minis all the way through. And then, of course, the Class 6 was a bonus then. It was a nice extra drive. Anything, if I made a final, happy days. Anything more than that was a bonus. And then to come away from that winning it, and the car was new to the family that year and everything, and we'd had a tough year that year. We'd lost my dad's younger brother and stuff, so I remember dedicating that national win as soon as I seen my dad. That was for my uncle then. So yeah, it was a really emotional win, that was. Really, and I just remember taking the checkered flag, and well, it was just some feeling. It's a weird feeling to describe. It was like full of happiness, but you can't see because of all the tears that you were crying with joy. It's just
it's obviously not everybody can experience it, and we will touch on that you've been fortunate enough to experience it quite a few times, especially the following year, because 2006 really was the year of Michaela. You completed your ambition to win Class 1 at the Nationals, but you did what not many people have done, and that is win 2 classes at the Nationals, because you won Class 6 as well. And then to top it all off, you made a clean sweep of the Baz with Class 1, 6 and the overall championship. That must have been an unreal feeling to achieve so much in 1 year. Which do you think was the best? The Class 1 Nationals?
Yeah, that was what I wanted for such a long time. And I remember with the class 1, oh God, me and Helen Leeson had such a race. We were literally just bumper to bumper for so many laps in the class 1, and the track was starting to dig out on the corners. And I thought, if I step out here, she's through, and vice versa. And we had a really, really good race. And yeah, that class 1 win was just, yeah, it was the best. If I could go back and live 2006 again, racing wise, I'd love to do it. And
oh well, yeah.
Even the Champ of Champs, that I remember Claire Horner, listening out for Claire Horner in the Class A in the Champ of Champs, thinking, oh no, don't come yet. And I led it till the last lap in the Champ of Champs. I thought, oh no, she's spoiling it for me now.
That's the problem in a Champ of Champs in a Class 1, isn't it? You can only go so fast, and you just wait for everybody else. But no, it must have been, obviously it must have been a great feeling to achieve all that in 1 year, which like myself, it can take forever and more to do. So it's certainly something. Probably must be one of your proudest moments, achieving that. But sticking with 2006, there must have been another pleasant feeling, because you shared the podium with your mum. After the Class 6 final. So not many children get to race against their parents in the same class. So that must have been quite nice. Or was she like, get you next time?
It was really good. Like, me and Mum I don't think we met in the heats. And I remember I was having issues with the car. I can't remember what it was now. It was something to do with the fuel pump. But after so many laps, as the car got warmer, the car would start spluttering in the race. So from the second heat onwards, we thought we'd cured it. No, the problem kept creeping back and haunting us. And literally, my dad said, you're going to have to go like a bull at a gate. And he said, go flat out. If you're in the lead, you're in the lead. If you're not, you're just going to have to keep going. Because I don't know if the car's going to start spluttering again. So I was going out there in my third heat. It done it again. And I was literally just freewheeling and trying to blip this car to get it to the finish line so I could get enough points to get to the final. Comes to the final, my dad's pretty confident he's fixed the problem, but we're not certain until we go out on track and try it.
Yeah.
And my dad and mum had a conversation which I didn't know about until after the final. And my mum had said to my dad, she said, Michael, what am I going to do? Because in my mum's heart of heart, being a mum, she said, she wanted me to take the trophy if there was ever a trophy position up for grabs. Yeah. So she said if I was ever in fourth and she was behind me, she was never going to try and pass me, because she'd rather me have got the fourth place trophy or whatever it was. Yeah. And then she said to my dad, what happens? And my dad said, look, Joan, I don't know what's going to happen with that car. If Michaela's conking out, you're just going to have to go for it and pass it, and just because I don't think the car might not hold together, so you're just going to have to race your own race. And I remember going off the line, off the bungee, I looked across thinking, who's this idiot coming flat out around the outside? And it's my mother. But yeah. So that was a really nice feeling, just being out on track at the same time and looking like for her, and because I knew my mum was as competitive as I was, really. But yeah, it was really nice to have that moment.
Yeah. Well, as I say, not many children get to race against the parents, and especially mother-daughter. That doesn't usually happen either. So, unfortunately, though, 2006 would come to an end, and you would make another change eventually. With a family who has always been into minis and front-wheel drive, well, obviously with the NSU with your mum and dad, but your grandparents was always mini people. And then before you started, your mum and dad had a Class 2 Nova after the NSU was finished with. But so where did the decision to go Class 7 come from? Was that you saying, I really want a Class 7, and eventually it transitioned to that, or was it just... It was just a conversation which followed through and you went that way. So yeah, when did the Class 7 decision come into it?
I found that I'd obviously been minis and my heart was still in the mini. Like, even today, if I could jump in a Class 1 mini today and go out and have a good race, I would love it. I love Class 1. And all my days when we were back and forth up to Neil Griffiths's, having the engine redone and this and that, and my heart is still always with Class 1, but to change, I think, because I'd done front wheel drive and I jumped into the fastest that you could of front wheel drive, which was the 6s, and I'd had the fortune that I'd had the 2 national wins there. And Class 6, there was only, I'd say, perhaps 3 heats of us at that point when we were going away to big meetings. And like, I had great races like with Sally Shorter and Karen Corbett and Josie Cox, and we were all really good pals at the same time. But I just felt like I needed something else, and I wanted to learn again from, like, as in driving wise. So I said to Dad, I really fancy Class 7, and I was at a South Wales club meeting, it was, and I remember Dickie Lindsay speaking to me, and he said, you need to get yourself in something a bit more aggressive now. He said, you need to get in a rear wheel drive and with something with a bit more grunt. And I said, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And he was like, get in a car and go for it. And I remember having a go in Craig Campshilt's twin, Seicento. And I had to go in that at the end of 2006, I think. Was it? Yeah, end of 2006, I had to go in that. And yeah, that was just absolutely something else.
From there, you were hooked with it, was you?
Yeah, I had him running back and forth from the pits because I couldn't get one engine into gear, and then
driving them around the pits can be more difficult than getting them around the track. So because that's what they're built for, really. They're not built to go slowly.
And that was it, really. We just spoke to Wayne Llewellyn and got a mini built, and yeah, it got a single booster in the back, and away we went.
Yeah, well, it didn't take you long though, did it, to get settled in and used to it? Because well, we think we worked it out. 4 straight years you won the Baz in Class 7, and you also won the Nationals twice, 2009 and 2011. How do you rate those successes compared to your front wheel drive success? Did it feel a bigger achievement or same level?
I feel like potentially it's a bigger achievement purely because everyone talks about super saloons and the adrenaline and the noise and the aggression, that the way you've got to throw it in, and like, I love the saying of get your arse end out, chuck it in. And I just love that. And when I'm on a loose track in a Class 7, that's just where I'm at my happiest. The polished stuff, I'm not so much a fan of because I can't go as fast as I'd like to without making a fool of myself. And yeah, I just don't like the whole just you've got to go slow to be fast sort of thing. I like the Welsh sort of soils, West Midland tracks for Class 7. And I just really, from jumping in the Class 7, I remember my first meeting with Stroud Bass in that car because we had a few issues. The car wasn't quite ready. Took it to PAC's track at the time one evening. I think it was Thursday evening before we went on the Friday to Stroud. Just had a drive round, checked the clutch, done a few practice starts, and there I was on the Friday going through scrutineering at Stroud for the first Bass round of 2007. I remember jumping in the car and I was following, I think it was Donna Smith or somebody, and I never used to wear gloves when I was racing Class 1 and 6, so I jumped in the Class 7, no gloves. As soon as I'd done that first heat, I went straight over to Lynn Cooper to buy some gloves. Yeah, my knuckles were just cut open with stones and everything.
Obviously, apart from national success, what would be a ladies' Class 7 racing at that time? What would you say would have been a highlight? Is there a race which sticks out in mind?
In the Class 7?
Yeah, from that time period, 2009 to 2011, was there, apart from nationals, obviously they're always the major ones you remember, but was there another race which stood out to you, which you fondly remember?
Yeah, like, the nationals, like, obviously the big ones, but I remember the 2008 nationals at Mega Penhow track.
Yeah. And
I come second there to Jo Thompson. She won it. And sometimes I look back now on that final and I think, oh, I should have done that different, I should have done that. Like, you look back, but me and Joe had such a good, like, on-track relationship. We knew we were going to race each other hard and fair, but we're never going to be dirty. There was a load of opportunities where I could have nudged her, she could have, like, perhaps chopped me off or whatever. But yeah, that was a really good, even though I come second, obviously everyone goes out there and they want to do their best and everything, but I was so happy to have got that second because it was such a good race.
Yeah. Well, no, sometimes a race which you don't win can be well remembered. As long as it's been a good one, that's the thing. Some people forget that. Sometimes results, obviously nationals results do matter, but sometimes as long as you've had a good race and you come off smiling, that's what people sometimes forget, and that's what we should try and do a bit, really. But you mentioned that you're not a fan of polished tracks. Obviously, there aren't many in your part of the world. There's quite a few more where I am. But one polished track on one particular weekend you did master quite well in a car you hadn't driven many times, because in 2010 you went and won Class 8 at the Nationals, just to add to your achievements. You probably wasn't expecting to win that one, but how did that one compare? Obviously, it means quite a bit to us because you won it at Scunny, and you sent me that fantastic little photo of you and my dad at the presentation, which I treasure. But yeah, how did that feel? Obviously, in a car you hadn't raced that many times at all, had you? Or had you even driven it before?
I raced it at the Pennow Bass Round in the August, and perhaps did I? Yeah, I think that was it. I think I raced one Bass Round.
Yeah.
And no, I think did I do a day or did I do something at a West Midland Open? I had a little run out somewhere else, I think. And then I went to the Pennow Bass. No, the Pennow Bass was 2011. I'm in the wrong year. God knows.
We think we've had one or two meetings experience before the Nationals in that car on a track which, in fairness, is probably not your favourite because it's a polished track. And it was very polished that weekend because it was a hot, sunny weekend.
Yeah.
An unexpected one, probably the most unexpected out of all of your Nationals achievements. So how did that one rank on your list compared to others?
Oh my God, that was up here. That was a real highlight that year. It was just 2010. I'd started off really sort of not really knowing. I had my Class 7 and I was happy, plodding along, and then I remember going, Luke Jenkins said to me, look, I'm happy, will you take my Class 8? I'd love for you to race the Class 8. Yeah, great, fine. And I remember everything was all geared up for that weekend, and I nearly didn't take the car because he got busy with work, that his commitments, he couldn't come to the Nationals. So he said, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to make it. I said, oh, don't worry, like, it's fine, no worries, thanks for letting me know. He's like, so when are you picking the car up? I was like, oh no, I am not taking your car if you're not coming. No way. I'm not taking your car on my own with just me and my dad. Like, we don't even know the car. You look after the car when I race it. Like, no. He goes, if you don't take that car, I'll be offended. You've got to take it, Bev. He said, you've got to take it.
Really?
Oh, my God. So anyway, we're over at his house, loading up. His dad's there. Right, there's the spares for this. Here's, I'm thinking, this don't feel right at all. I'm taking your car all the way up country to Scunthorpe. So I towed it behind my dad's works van, following my mum and dad in the camper with the Class 7 and Alice's Junior Mini on. I'm thinking, this is weird. But anyway, we're going for it. So yeah, managed to get a few decent heat results, got through to the final. And I remember ringing Luke to say, look, I'm keeping you updated, we're in the final. Oh, awesome, brilliant, that's all you were ever wanting, brilliant, fab. So I was like, yeah, I'll speak to you later when we're on the way home, And that was it. And yeah, just that feeling going around that Scunny track and on the polish as well, because I kept thinking to myself, do not mess up, because I was waiting for me to mess up at some point by revving it too hard or whatever. And yeah, to come across that line was just the best.
Yeah, because you must have had a slight mixed feeling at the time, because you'd already done the Class 7 final, which obviously you was defending champion at the point, and you didn't quite hold on to that. So how do you go from, in such a short space of time, how do you go from your feelings there saying, oh, I could have like that bloody scunny track. It was too polished for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't do with that. And then you go out in this car, you've had so little experience in, and then you go out and win against people who you don't race every weekend because you're not in that class. So how does your mentality go from gathering yourself up in such a short space of time from one class to another to try and get back to that point?
I think like I was really cheesed off of myself from the Class 7 final, and I thought, oh, bloody hell, I've ballsed up there and done this. And anyway, I was, you know, happy. I come back in and thought, oh well, never mind. Try and wipe the slate clean now, fresh mindset, ready to go for the Class A. But underneath it all, the steam was still coming out my ears. And I think perhaps that helped because I just blanked everything out, forgot where I really was, and just enjoyed driving the car. And just thought, I'm going to go out there. This is my last race of the weekend, not expecting anything. And I thought, I'm just going to go out there and enjoy it. I'm not going to hate the track because I'm not in love with polish. But then I ended up coming away from there absolutely loving that track.
And as a bonus, the car went back in one piece.
Yes, and there was no repairs. And I remember ringing Luke after winning the final, coming in like, all right, oh yeah, are you on your way home now? I said, I don't know if we'll be coming home tonight. I might have a few beers. And he's like, why is that then? Did you win the 7? No, I've won in the 8. And there was a few bleeps and whatever. And it was next thing, if anybody offers you it, get them to write the check as for sale. Yeah, so it was a great feeling winning that one. Good. And of course, going up on stage and your dad presenting me this pot as well was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, the great memories all around. It has to be said. I think I know possibly the reasoning why, but then you eventually made a decision to scrap the ladies' license and go back racing against the boys because you spent a couple of years in Class 7. Not disrespecting the ladies at all because they are absolutely fantastic and some huge talents out there. But did you feel at the time you had not really much more to prove and you wanted to test your mettle against the men in Class 7? Or it was just a case of setting new targets and going into these uncharted areas and challenging yourself?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And especially because I'm all for ladies racing. Like, I'll shout ladies racing from the rooftops and I'm all for it. And I'll do anything I can to help, like promote more ladies into the sport or what have you. And I just felt because I was a ladies racer paying the same license fee as a man, but I was going to all my local events and I'd be racing perhaps Class 1s and 2s in my Class 7. Like, I just wasn't gaining nothing.
You was wasting time, really.
Yeah.
You was getting seat time, but nothing more.
No, and it wasn't. I was losing that sort of interest, and it wasn't enjoyable, and it was more hassle than it was worth. By the time you got the car dirty, and I didn't gain nothing from it, if that, so to speak. And I just thought, I was looking at the men, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I could not only just have 5 Bass rounds and a nationals where I had competition to race with in the ladies, but I could be in a men's class where I'd have good racing every time I took the car to a field with my dad and mum. And I thought, so Dad took a bit of persuasion because he did think there'd be a bit more panel work involved.
Yes. Yeah,
but he said, well, if that's where your heart is heading and that's what you want, then give it a go. You can only do your best and give it a go. And I absolutely loved it. Even to come 6th or 7th in a race, but it was a good race, I'd come off grinning from year to year. I loved it. Yeah,
well, I was going to ask that. Did you get the graces off your mum and dad? I thought Joan might have been the one to take a bit more persuading. No. But no. So did you originally set yourself any targets then, racing against the men? I'm assuming you wanted to make a Bass final. You wanted to qualify for the nationals. They were the ones initially. But did you, like as you went back to the very beginning as a junior, making progressive steps of where you wanted to be, did you do the same racing against the men?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to qualify for the nationals, which I did in both years. So I'd done my qualifiers, and I was racing against Nathan Rees and Thomas Rees, Darren Jones, I'd like to name but a few, in PAC. This was when PAC was separate from the South Wales League. It was the West Wales League when I was in the men's. And so I wanted to qualify for the nationals, so I'd done that, and I always said to myself, as long as I finish in the top 20 in the Bass, I'd be happy. And if I could make semi-finals or even a final at the Bass, I'd be chuffed. And yeah, I made a few semi-finals, and yeah, that was really, really good. So I was happy with that, and I had a Bass heat win on the track at Scunny as well. So
hey, there you go. You see, Scunny, that's that place for you.
Yeah, that track come good to me eventually. But yeah, I always remember that because I was battling with I was in third behind Simon Bentley and Donal O'Brien, and me and Donal, and we always had banter and miss him so much. And it's literally one of my treasured races through the whole of my racing time was that race with him, because I knew he'd be giving me as good as I give him, and same with Simon. We went tit for tat, and Donal pushed on a little bit, and he tried coming back on towards the cones and stuff. I thought, no pal, you've gone out too wide, I'm coming through. Clattered him with the back wheel, and then I went, did I go round Simon? I think, I can't remember now, and was in the lead, and I thought, yes, I've done the two of them. Yes, I'm going to tell him now after, because them two are always like this at me. Yeah. And so I remember going in the pits, and after getting out of the car, and was like jumping for joy, and next thing I had this big smack on the back from Donal. He goes, I'm proud of you, he said, for sticking the wheel in, because if you didn't stick it in, I'd be telling you, why didn't you stick it in? So yeah, that was really a big highlight for me.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially so personally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to fully agree. Donal, much missed character out there, and he did an awful lot. And yeah, he's great that memory is still remembered fondly by so many as also. So would you say that was probably one of your best Class 7 races against the men? That's what you would highly regard as one you would live back on?
Yeah, I had a good one there, and I had another good race at Severn Valley track with there was Gareth Thomas and Aaron Middleton, and I think it was Mark Clayton as well, was in the twin then at the time. We had a good race, and then I sort of I messed up on one corner and they pulled away then. But yes, little clips here and there, and it was really, really good to look back on, and really enjoyable and I learned so much. And also the other big race that I was really happy with, although Jake Roberts hates me for it, because we were at Yorkshire Dales Men's Nationals, and that one there was I was me, Phil Cooper and Carl Mosley, and I was literally looking down one of their exhaust pipes, and I thought, oh my god, I've done it, I'm up with them, I'm doing well. And then I chucked a stone up off the back wheel and cut Jake Roberts' cut off, so he went on stop.
Yeah, I'm sure he believes it was intentional.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's great that. I mean, yeah, I've definitely got nothing against ladies racing, but I think if any lady has got the chance to even have a year just competing against the men, Alice did it this year. Yes, it was a bit of a 3-year for her to do it, but she thought, why not, and have a go. And if it's not for you, you can move back. But I've definitely got nothing against ladies racing at all. And you would go back there because you would end up actually finishing with Class 7 for a time, because you ended up with this bit of a deal with Matt, who you're obviously married to now. You would end up in Class 5 together, only for a short time. Matt was in it for 2-3 years. You only ended up racing the car for a year or two yourself. Again, that didn't take long. We follow a trend here, don't we? It didn't really take you long to get settled in, because you would end up with another national championship to your name, which, again, a class which you're not familiar with. yes, there may be some similarities with Class 7. It's a similar size of car. Yes, the power's different. But yeah, you went out and you probably exceeded an early expectation again, racing against what is a high caliber of ladies in Class 5. What did you make of the competition in Class 5, and what did it feel to achieve that goal against them?
Yeah, that was really good racing the Class 5, and the competition, like, there was over there, you know, there's Sandra, Nicola, there's Di Jones, Sarah Chilvert, like, you know, there's loads of names in there at the time, and they were all, any one of them could have gone out there and won. And it was always different people winning different races. It was not always the same one all the time. So I really enjoyed that. And yeah, it kept you racing hard because you were racing against them. And the nationals, I remember I raced, because I was in the men's in my Class 7 when Matthew had the 5 initially. Because when he bought the Class 5, he said it was my fault. He bought a Class 5 and come back grassing because he was off rallying, and so he sold the rally car and come back grassing, and yeah, so he should have. but yeah, so we done that, and then after I come out of the men's, he said, "Oh, you're going to race the 5 then, and what we're going to do?" And obviously 2014, that's when we got married, so it was him to take me under his wing, so to speak, then, and take me racing, so to speak. And yeah, not look back. I just went out in PAC at the men's nationals that year. We went down the track. We spoke to the farmer, said, "Can we go down the track after the men's nationals one evening?" Because I hadn't really had a go much in the Class 5 that year, because whenever it was a qualifier, I just let Matt race the car then. And then what did I do? A couple of bash rounds, and then we had a couple of engine problems early on at some of the bash rounds. So there was a few times I'd only race on the Saturday because we had issues. And so then I thought, I don't really feel confident in the car. I didn't feel fully myself in the car because I wasn't sure of where the points were and how far I could push it to the limit, you know, how far I could keep the power on. And he said, "Right, I'm not taking you to any track if you're not going to give it your all." And Matthew's quite a thing like that. I was like, well, I ain't going anyway if I think I'm not going to be confident and what have you in the car and comfortable, because I feel like I got to know what I'm doing in a car to be ready to race it. So yeah, we went down there, spent 2 hours in the field, come away, and then yeah, went out in Pennow Nationals, and that was another bit of a upsy down weekend, because I come back out in the Class 7, my old Class 7, got delivered. Liam Evans brought the car there because it had an engine refresh. He delivered the car to the field and jumped in my Class 7, loving it, had the full power back that I was missing from the year before. And yeah, blooming went into a cloud of dust in the top bend in the first corner of the final and literally annihilated the car, because I just thought, I've missed out off the start line. I've got to pin it around the outside, and ended up like cricking my neck and with whiplash and whatever. And of course I had to go and race the Class 5 straight after that. So whether there was any bit of the head wasn't quite in gear, so to speak, before I jumped in and just thought, I got to get this race over and done with. And then I just thought, get it over and done with quickly.
Well, you certainly did. Well, it seemed like as your Class 5 career had started, Matt decided that it was coming to an end, because the car would disappear after that and you would end up back in Class 7. Matt would bring out for you both one of my favourite looking cars, by the way, from more modern times. I thought it looked fantastic when I first saw it. But you was running twin engine Class 7 then. So was that your first twin engine car or did you have twins in the Mini? Or,
no,
so that was your first twin engine, your very first go in a 7. Yeah. So it sort of brought it back round full circle, as pun intended, with racing circles. Yeah, so you jump back in a Class 7 similar to how you first started with it. But again, I think it was only about a year or two you had that, wasn't it? But you still managed to squeeze in one more Baz success. You're probably getting to the point by now where was you getting to a point maybe where it was you're doing it for the enjoyment, or was you still as serious as you was when you first sort of started with it, or did you do it more for fun, or was you still like really wanting that extra bit?
Definitely still always wanting more of it, and because it was a twin now, it was another learning aspect for me. So I was coming to grips with obviously how I could race my single mini compared to racing this twin 600 was totally different. I had to correct my driving style a few times, whereas obviously, especially like coming out of the gate, I had to be aware that obviously my car now was a bit heavier and different ways of like potentially on the corners, obviously because I had a lot more weight in the car compared to the mini, I could push on more. And if I wasn't, I had to think a lot more driving this car than I did the single. So I took a lot of enjoyment from having to have a bit of a recheck and refresh with having to learn something new again. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy, and I love that car. Even though when Matthew said he's painting it black and green, I was like, oh, I hate green, hate it. Don't paint it green. But then I thought, whatever, you do what you like, you know. And yeah, and when it turned out, I was just delighted with the car, and I was gutted when it went, absolutely gutted. But we decided we were going to invest in bricks and mortar and build our house. So that's when that went on its way. So yeah.
Matt was thinking ahead. He was thinking, well, I can't have Michaela being better than me. We might as well get a house.
And I'm gutted because he was coming so well. He made loads of like finals at Bass, and he was really enjoying it. And I just absolutely loved that car. We altered the wheelbase on that car, and I wish we hadn't, because when the shorter wheelbase was on there, perhaps it wasn't quite good for the men, because sometimes if he took a hit it would cause a bit of damage. But in the ladies, with ladies being a little bit more respectful and perhaps would give each other that little bit more room, I wasn't picking up the damage as much, and the shorter wheelbase worked for me because I could sometimes get out the gate, get to that first corner and sort of please myself as in where I wanted to put the car instead of having to be in traffic. Whereas when we made the wheelbase longer, I was in the traffic and having to battle through and try and pick my lines a bit cleverer then.
Yeah, also, you've got that aspect with you actually sharing a car. Did you ever feel like if you was in a close race, you'd have to sort of think about his... Did you think about his racing instead? Say, like third heat, and that, well, I know I'm going to make the final, but he's got a semi-final or whatever coming up. So did that sort of cause you to possibly back out once or twice to think about that? Or did you not think about that and thought, nah,
I did and I didn't. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Yeah, it all depends on, obviously, because he put so much time and effort into the car, I'd obviously want him to be standing a good chance of him having the car at top notch for him to go out and do his race. So I wouldn't do no silly moves or anything if it wasn't worth the risk. But then, if I thought it would have paid off and I would have picked up more points, then I still would have gone for it.
I actually want to go back to your class 5. Actually, I missed this bit out because was it this point there? It was the magical sequence of photos because you was in the Champion of Champions. You finished second. You was picked to the post by your younger sibling in that Champions. Absolute magical set of photos, which obviously got shared around of you and Alice crossing the line and embracing and enjoying the moment. How was that? I mean, I don't think any siblings have ever finished first and second in a Champion of Champions. I don't think that's ever happened, and it's a rarity to get two winning the nationals the same year anyway. So when you crossed that line, did you feel slightly gutted because you didn't win it yourself, or was you more pleased because the family has won it and you finished first and second?
Yeah, it was one of them. Oh God, the amount of conversations that's been had after that race. I should have wrote a book. It's literally, some people said to me, why was you backing off? Why did you let her win? And then on the other hand, it was like, oh, she was pulling away from you. You were lighting the wheels up coming out the corners. But yeah, I was over the moon for Alice, absolutely delighted for her. And God, yeah, I think, I don't know, and being the older sister, perhaps I did feel, oh, I'd love her to get this. But that is the one title, the one thing I would love to get one day. And then sometimes, oh, it was so close, but yet so far.
This goes back to obviously with how your mum was with you in that Class 6 final. So it's funny how it comes around again, doesn't it? Even obviously with being sisters on this occasion. It must have been. I mean, there was definitely a lot of applause for it happening, and yeah, it must have been obviously a fantastic family moment overall. And I can't imagine there was anybody prouder than your mum and dad on that occasion.
Yeah, and definitely, like I remember saying, Alice, or the presentation truck's waiting for you, because it was our league was running that nationals as well. Yeah. So my dad was chairman of that event, and like we were all busy, we were all exhausted from, you know what it's like when you've got your own meeting and things. And I said to Alice, quick, the truck's waiting for you, better go now. So then they're sorted. I'm not going anywhere unless you're coming with me, she said. We won this together. And that was that then. And we just off we went. And yeah, it was just as proud as if I'd won it all come second, really. It was so nice.
So after the Class 7 was sold, that's been pretty much full-time career done at the moment. You've had some guest appearances. You've got a guest invite to race Back to Your Roots, a Class 1, quite well, fairly regularly. You did the major meetings in it, you did end up lifting another national title, which I think was your 8th. So 8 now when you lifted the Class 1 title, I think 2016. So 11 years after your first one. With Class 1 then, you say your heart's been in Class 1 since day one, because that's where you started. But when you step back into a Class 1, over 10 years since you first started in it, how did the competition, did it feel any different? Did it feel, was it, what I'm saying is, did it feel more competitive now, or was it then, or is the level still at the same? Because it's always been a high level. But do you find going back into Class 1 more difficult than what it was before, or
I find a Class 1 now, whereas going back to when I was first in Class 1, everybody give it their all. So whereas now it's more, you've got to look after the car to get you round, because it's a lot more, even a Class 1 now is so technical, whereas it's down to every little aspect of the car, how much mud you've even got hanging off underneath it as to make the little bit of weight difference, and how far close to that steering wheel you can sit. And I just found there was a lot more thinking with the Class 1 and the way the driving was, compared to just getting out there flat out, give it your all and hold on sort of thing, compared to when I first started. But it was that weekend at Stroud in 2016. It was at Stroud when I won in 2006. So it was 2016, and if I could, it was going to be like a 10-year. If I could get to the final on the same track that I won my first national in Class 1 on, it was going to be something proper special. And yeah, I was just happy to make the final, because I was just happy to have a drive, because we wasn't actually racing ourselves that year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was chuffed and honoured to have had a drive with Connor Griffiths with the Class 1. And blooming heck, just didn't expect to walk away with the big one.
Did the car, I know it wasn't your car, obviously, it wasn't the one you were racing every time, but did the 2016 version of a Class 1 Mini, did it feel any different to a 2006 version? Did the car feel anything different, or was it like home, it was a Mini, and you was pretty happy?
Pretty happy, just jump in, left foot braking, have a little bit of leaning on the door if you need to, and I remember just it just all comes back. I think whatever you started off in, you just feel most comfortable in. Like a mini has always been like right back through to my grandparents. It was always minis. And obviously now as well, even with my mother and father-in-law, with Viv and Merrill, before Matthew's time came along, they were all mini people.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, so I think it felt the same, but I find that there's a lot more goes into the preparation these days with the cars of even class ones. Like there's so much effort compared to what there was when I was racing it in 2006 and in juniors and stuff. And the different wheels and everything about making it all light. And have you been to the toilet before you go out and race? I'm like, are you serious? What? I just want to get in the car and drive. Shut up.
Well, it's fair to say over your racing career, you have raced many different cars, and you've done really well in all. But there is one car you never got to race, and I am still not happy about it, because you never got to have a go in the NSU.
Yes, and you know what? It eats away at me that I never had to go in that. I raced it around the fields, down the farm and everything like that. I had to go, sat on my dad's lap, and my dream one day is to get a twin booster NSU. That would be my dream.
So if anybody can find an NSU shelf, please let Michaela know. We did actually speak about this once before, saying how good it would be to have an NSU in Class 7, or just an NSU back in general. But I still cannot believe your dad sold it. I thought that would be a family heirloom. I thought Maxon would learn to drive in it. I didn't know at the time, because obviously you wasn't pregnant with Maxon at the time, but it would have been great. I mean, he had a few NSUs, your mum and dad, over the years. It must be fair to be said, but yeah, it'd have been great to have seen you have had a go in it. Yes, it might not have been competitive, but even if it was just at a club meeting, it turned up one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd have been great to see that.
I'll have to get him looking on the old classifieds again and just see if something pops up.
Yes, so we need an NSU back out there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what form, let's have one back on track.
Fly the flag for the old NSU.
Yes. So you might be pleased now. We're getting to the tail end of this now. A really exciting, strange, difficult, worrying year, which we've all had, but one for yourself as well. Obviously, you're a mum now, which changes priorities and what your thoughts are daily. But just thinking about yourself, what would you like to do in Autograss next? I have to just quickly mention, obviously, you was part of the fantastic team of the Nationals just 2 years ago. One of my favourite events ever.
Brilliant.
I hope the little GrassChat sticker's still on the pit box.
Yes, it is. It's still there. It's still there. Do you know what? I've even been up the field this year. We had our track days just in case we ever had a race meeting and the Welsh government would allow any more than 30 people to an outdoor event. But we were up there prepping the pits control box, and it's still sat there, proud.
Really good. But so what would you like to do in Autograss next? Is there anything? Have you ever thought about it? Obviously, you've achieved so much, and deservedly so. Your family has achieved so much, and again, deservedly so. But what would you want to do next, or is it wait until Maxon is old enough to race himself?
No, I can't wait till then. No, in all fairness, Nigel Edwards, Fox, he's been so kind to me and he's let me race his car. And when I've taken that to the Nationals previously and done bus rounds and stuff in it, and bless him, he offered me the car. Like he said, you can have a go in that whenever it suits you. So I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, I would one day, if obviously, if I had the opportunity and the money was there and everything was all perfect and hunky-dory, then I'd probably say I will come back, and I think it'd have to be a Class 7 again.
Yeah.
I think, but I would like to have a go in, I've raced every car, every class I've had a go in apart from a Class 3. So I would
So if
like
anybody's
to.
got class 3 out there that they want to...
That's not a pitch, by the way. But yeah, I'd just like to say that I've had a go in all 10 classes then.
Yeah.
I've even had to go in a junior special, so I've even done that one.
Oh, well, I've had a go as well. I had a go at Scunny once. The car didn't fit me. But I can say I've had a go.
I bet your knees were up by your ears.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like when you see the cartoon clown in a tiny car with his his elbows out the window. It's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you and just find out a bit more. We could actually talk forever because we could go back through every day, every weekend, and going back from it, which of your achievements do you hold the most? Obviously, every nationals, every bad style, every race win can be special in their own way. But is there one you hold higher than the rest?
My first one was obviously very special, but I think I always remember being on the start line at St. Neots in 2009 when out comes the water bowser, the track was bladdered, keeping the dust down from going over the motorway. And I remember all the girls on the start line like tutting and shaking their heads and going like this. And I thought, nah, come on, use your head here now. And that race, I remember just going around that track, loving every minute. So I was just chucking it in, and it was the most enjoyable, even though it's the most nerve-wracking being in the national final. But that race was the most enjoyable because it was wet, slippy, but the car just done exactly what I wanted it to. And the same at the Severn Valley in 2011. It was like from one aspect to the other. It was a wet nationals win on the wet down in St. Neots, and then it was bone dry. And it's just doing, I was just at my happiest in those Class 7 days.
Yeah, St. Neots is actually a favourite track of mine. I miss that place. Really. You must have actually sort of thought, if you're on the start line when the water cart comes out and they're all shaking their heads and all that, you've sort of got them beat because they're putting themselves back because obviously the conditions aren't going to be what they wanted. So if you can keep them focused while they're all complaining, you're sort of one step above it.
There's me going, oh, I know, such a shame. And I come on.
So as we say, it's been absolutely fantastic to speak to you. We've had some great conversations personally over the past couple of years, especially, and definitely hold you down as a really good friend. You're also the only one who's still got me an engagement card, so
No, but thank you so much for asking me for an interview. I just felt like I'm out of it now because I'm not actually racing currently, but I hope that don't last for much longer and I can get some pennies together and get back out on track because I do miss it. It's what we're used to. It's our grassroots, isn't it?
Yeah, Max, and earning some pocket money from somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, it's very nearly Christmas. I'm not sure exactly when this video is going to come out, but do you have any messages to anybody out there who obviously you've not been able to catch up with this year? You may have spoke to them on a video call previously, but is there anything you want to say to anybody out there before we finish this off?
I just like to say I just miss all our friends and family throughout the racing world, and wish you all a healthy and happy New Year and a Merry Christmas. And the Yorkshire puddings I miss up in Pateley Bridge, all the Jeffersons and the Gill family, miss them. And I can't believe I've not also seen Trotty. Me and Trotty are good pals, and she's obviously due the little baby Barber, her and Johnny, on Christmas Day. And I've not seen her throughout her pregnancy. That's because racing's not happened, and obviously COVID restrictions and all our local. I'd just like to say a big shout out to all PAC and all the South Wales League, basically, and hope they're keeping all well. And we've been in touch through the last major lockdown. We had our Sunday night get together on the South Wales page where Geraint Lloyd done the radio show for us all. And it's just nice to keep that togetherness, really. So just hope everybody stays well and we can all get back to what we know best.
Yeah, second that exactly. So that's it for another fantastic Grass Chat. Michaela, you have been brilliant. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. It's been a pleasure to learn a bit more about your autograss life. And I think many people will be thrilled to see you back on track as well, doing what you enjoy, doing what we all enjoy. So this has been, I've been Russ from GrassChat. Thank you, Michaela, once again. It's been a pleasure. I wish you and everybody else a fantastic, healthy, as perfect as you can make it Christmas, and a Happy New Year. And that is it. We will see you all very soon for a bit more Christmas quiz and more, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you.